All right, Evan, we are recording and good to go.
Cool. All right, we're looking forward to this discussion with Heather today. She is the Executive Administrator of Digital Innovation with JCPS in Louisville. So that's their public school system. And we're really looking forward to this conversation because when you sit down with Heather and you hear her energy towards technology and just the students and their outcomes and how they interact with technology, it's very infectious, and it makes you want to hear more and learn more about, what JCPS is doing on that front. So Heather, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Ready to rock.
We're looking forward to it. Yeah, we are too. So before we get, into any of the specifics of what you're doing there in Louisville with the school system, talk about, your background and how you found yourself in the innovation side of the education system.
Yeah, okay. So middle school teacher, those crazy middle school students, you kind of figure out early on that you have a knack for that age group. So I was a pretty renegade middle school teacher. I specialized in kinesthetic learning, and this would have been like 2001. So technology in 2001 really didn't exist too much. We had the big computer lab down the hall, and you'd take your class with the floppy disks, and you'd uproot them and retransplant them in the computer lab. And then, so you had to get pretty creative to get kids engaged with their learning. So kinesthetic learning, turning all the content into songs and raps, like that was it back in 2001. Then the rolling smartboard emerged. So teachers that are, veterans like I am, we remember the cow, computer on wheels, and the rolling smartboard, and you're pushing the cow down the hall, and you're pulling the smartboard, and you're trying to, get kids out of their seat and interacting with the smartboard. So that's kind of, as a teacher, trying to figure out how to integrate technology, and really my passion is student engagement. I mean, how can we get their heads, hearts, and hands involved in what they're learning? So moved on to be a library media specialist, like never in a million years. Why library? Well, it is the best staying classroom in the school. You get greater access to tech. You get to work with every kid and every teacher, and I wanted to make a bigger impact. So I did that. I did that for 7 years in Bardstown. Loved it. I thought I never saw myself leaving, but I got to a point where I was tired of trying to pull the administrators, the school principals along to be more progressive and innovative. And it was just a constant battle. And so I thought, you know what, put your money where your mouth is, go back and get a second master's degree. Let's do this, get off the bench, and let's see if you can be a school leader and do something better, really challenge the traditional educational model. So just got lucky in life. You just never know where this crazy life will take you. And Wes Bradley, who is now the superintendent in Nelson County Schools, he had done Teach for America, taught in the Bronx, inner city Chicago, had a lot of involvement with the charter network. And he's a Nelson County boy. And he thought, you know what, I've learned so much in these big urban districts. And charter schools usually have an opportunity to be a little bit more innovative because they don't have to battle the regs and such. So he came back home and he wanted to take a lot of the things that he had learned, and thought about with progressive school reform. And he wanted to apply it to rural Kentucky, which I think is really interesting. He wanted to come back home. And they actually they took a high school, split it in half, and built a brand new high school on his grandfather's farm, which was really cool. So he came back. He was hired as the principal. This would have been like 2011-ish. And he hired me to be his AP. And when I saw the vision for the school, it was bold. Unapologetic. He was really huge into culture and making schools awesome places to work, and we'll probably talk more about that. And so we sat down together with the vision he had kind of crafted, and we just challenged everything. Like Rage Against the Machine is my favorite band. I question and challenge everything. And this was an opportunity to completely deconstruct what is school and challenge the nomenclature. Why are we saying faculty meeting? Is anyone inspired by the word faculty meeting, or are we saying it because we've been saying it for years? We didn't even call our teachers teachers. We called them leaders. You are the chemistry leader in this building. So we challenged what we call teachers, what we called students. They were all leaders and aligned to our leader values. We challenged the furniture. Why are kids sitting in rows like graveyards? And why is the teacher the sole conveyor of the knowledge? And it's just everything. I was just really tired of the way that school had been done to me. school was being done to my children, and I really took a stand and wanted to change that. So one of the first things we did, and I think this is the part of the story that people are always really interested in, is we were meeting with the architects, Studio Kramer in Louisville, really awesome team they had there, and they were wanting to put computer labs in our schools. And we said, heck no, we are not doing technology like this anymore. At the time, it was like 2011. And we visited Kentucky Country Day, which is a big, I don't know if you know, it's a big private school here in Louisville. And they had, in 2011, Chromebooks. So we came back to our board and said, we want to buy Chromebooks because we want to integrate technology into the classroom. We don't want to have to uproot kids and ship them down the hall. We want it to be nationally integrated. It was pretty bold back then. I mean, you had some Kentucky districts like Fort Thomas was kind of partnering with Apple a little bit. But for the most part, KDE, the Kentucky Department of Education, which I later went on to work for, they said, no, it's not on our bid list. So you can't. So we really pushed back. I don't like to be told no if I think it's what's best for kids and teachers. So we kind of pushed back, and we were the first public school in 2012 to get the Chromebook waiver. And now there are like hundreds of thousands of Chromebooks in Kentucky. Could you imagine, the pandemic had we not had access to technology? So our school, we really focused on innovative instruction and integrating technology, and coupled with really awesome school culture. We wanted our teachers to love coming to work. Happy teachers, happy students. And so within 4 years, we went from 178th high school in the state of Kentucky, which is the data we inherited, to top 10, the top county school in Kentucky. And a lot of people ask how, and it was leveraging the technology, the Google systems and tools to create systems of transparency and efficiency and to rapidly force multiply culture. So we rapidly grew to a top 10 Kentucky high school, and we were a TEL Kentucky Winter Circle school for teacher job satisfaction. So we had rapid success. So that's just a little bit of the educational background. I started telling our growth story and our success story and keynoting it around the state. And then before you know it, KDE says, hey, come work for us and do this full time. And so I worked in over 100 Kentucky school districts on strategies like that. So sorry, very long, wordy answer. As you can see, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I love your innovative mindset when it comes to education and technology, because, as you're talking about that, and you're talking about the cow and the smartboard and the computer labs, that was like a burst of nostalgia for me, because for a lot of kids, their first interactions with technology are in the classroom. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that that's where, you're spending a lot of your time as a kid, and that's your first exposure to technology. So if there's robust technology in the classroom, that can inspire those kids in that next generation to go out and explore more technology. So one of the things I wanted to talk about as we start diving into this is the initiatives that you were bringing into these schools around Microsoft Minecraft, Google, VR. So talk a little about that. Let's start with Minecraft, because that's one that our listeners might not expect to be in school, even though I'm sure the kids absolutely love that. Talk a little bit about that initiative.
Yeah, so we definitely believe in digital agility for all. So I often say we're not a Google district or an Apple district or a Microsoft district. We're a whatever is the best tool to get kids excited about learning and the best tool for teachers to integrate in their instructional design. So let's just take that one, because I could go off on all the different partners and all the great ways we're trying to integrate them into the learning experience for kids. Let's just take Minecraft, because that's the one you mentioned. So Minecraft traditionally is a game. Parents think of it as a game, but kids, and I don't know how much experience you gentlemen have with Minecraft, kids will sit for hours in Minecraft and build virtual worlds. It's augmented reality. And if you're old school like me, back in the day when we were kids, we were asked to do a social studies project. And oftentimes we would get a piece of poster board or a piece of paper, and we'd fold it up and we'd regurgitate information. And then we'd stand up in front of the class and present it, right? Well, guess what, guys? That's still happening in 2021, and we can't stand for it. So how can kids demonstrate learning and success skills in innovative ways that they love? Well, one way is with Minecraft. So the problem with Minecraft, and I think as it relates to Kentucky, this is something that we have to be really proud of, is at the time, Microsoft, it's their premier EDU product, and you could not Minecraft on Chromebooks. So we were in JCPS in Louisville, Kentucky, really proud to be the district that helped kind of bridge Google and Microsoft, so Chromebooks and then this digital tool together. And we were the first district to pilot Minecraft on Chromebook, so a Microsoft tool on a Google product. So we did that, and this has been a couple years ago. And then once they went through the beta phase and it went to full scale production, ready to rock, we now in Louisville have the highest student use and implementation of Minecraft EDU of any district in the world. And we're very, very proud of that. So why is that important? Because kids love to create worlds and demonstrate in that augmented reality. And it's funny because we launched a Minecraft camp. We brought teachers in by content area and taught them how to integrate this for kids to demonstrate their learning. And the teachers would tell us, one teacher said, "Oh my God, this parent called me and they were so mad. Why are you giving my kids so much homework? They're working for hours on your class." Well, the teacher wasn't giving any homework. The kid loved building, and I think he was building like a hurricane shelter. Like, here's all the resources, build a hurricane shelter that could sustain this. It was a science lesson. And the kid was working at home for hours, building and creating and innovative and being the architect of this shelter. So why not? The kids are ready. A lot of times we've got to get the teachers caught up and able to jog behind the kids. So we're really, really proud of that. And, JCPS, our goal is to be the most innovative urban district in the world. And, initiatives like this and success like this is helping us get there.
So digital worlds, how are they, you mentioned the hurricane shelter there. What are some other examples? Because I can envision them, doing that. And how are you incorporating other classes? And what class was maybe that hurricane shelter for?
So that would be, a middle school science class, but it's all content areas. For instance, let's take, during the pandemic, we partner with the Kentucky Derby Festival. No one could really go to a Kentucky Derby Festival event, during the pandemic. So we issued a challenge to kids. This is just one example. We want you to recreate the 8 Kentucky Derby Festival events in a virtual reality. So people can experience the Chow Wagon, the Marathon, Thunder Over Louisville, the Pegasus Parade. So they can go through the world and experience these virtually from home. So that's like on the competition side. But on the content side, let's think about perimeter, volume. There's so many math lessons. And if you understand Minecraft, you know that it's built on, you use blocks to build. Yeah. So lots of great math lessons in there. English within the Minecraft world, kids will pull up a quill and a scroll. And they have to explain and articulate, in reading and in writing how, various aspects of the world that they built. So social studies, so many, you think about ecosystems, biomes. I've seen 1 million dioramas. Instead of a diorama, we've been doing those for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. Kids can create that Native American, hut, whatever in a Minecraft world and present that. Like, you go into the Minecraft world with the kid and they take you through the shelter. My own child spends hours building veterinarian shelters. She's got a place for her horses and her cows and she feeds them. And it's just absolutely fascinating to watch them develop and be creative and be architects in this space. This is just I could send you a list, Evan, of connections to content.
And I'm curious, who's developing the virtual worlds and the different modules that you're mentioning? Is Microsoft doing that, or are there third parties developing on the Minecraft? Is there an API? And then I guess the next part of that question is, how are the students consuming this? Is this on a desktop on their Chromebooks, or do they have VR headsets?
No. So, like I said, Microsoft owns Minecraft, mm-hmm. and they do this on their Chromebooks, they had always been able to do it on an iPad. or a desktop. So that was not, and that was actually a barrier because we do have schools that are one-to-one iPad and they had access. It's a little bit harder to build on an iPad, but you can do it. But we didn't have really laptops, and the goal is to move away from stationary devices. The future is flexible and portable, and so we really don't. We don't necessarily want kids to have to go to the computer lab. So it was imperative that Google and Microsoft team up to where we could make this happen on Chromebooks. Chromebooks are cost effective, they're durable. We've scaled them across the state of Kentucky. And so we were the first district, and now other districts are starting to turn on that domain, because I don't know if you know much about how Kentucky, the Microsoft tenant in Kentucky. So I think Kentucky is Microsoft's largest mega tenant, one of the largest mega tenants in the world. And when our Kentucky Department of Ed decided to give school districts the opportunity to use a Google domain for email or a Microsoft domain for email, one of the reasons they did that is because they wanted to give them choice, because the Google domains were emerging across the state. But one big reason for the divestiture of the mega tenant was because KDE wanted school districts to be able to turn on the Minecraft feature if they chose to. And if they were controlling it and not giving that local ownership, then the district couldn't necessarily turn on all the features. So that was the first domino that kind of had to follow, was the divestiture of the mega tenant, the Microsoft mega tenant in Kentucky school districts. And I also want to give David Couch a plug. He is the Associate Commissioner of the Office of Education Technology and one of my former bosses. People often think of Kentucky as being so far behind in edtech. And it's just really irritating because most Kentuckians do not know that under David Couch's leadership in 1995, Kentucky was the first state to have every school wired to the internet. In 1995, the first state in the United States to have all of their public schools wired to the internet. Did you guys know that?
No clue. That's really impressive, though, for that early in the life cycle of the internet, though.
Yeah, right. The CATS engineers is what they were called back then. And, he's still there. I mean, he's been at KDE for 20-something years now, leading. And we really do in Kentucky want to be, the most innovative state when it comes to education technology.
Yeah, and something that was kind of going through my head as you were talking about the different types of classes that kids would interact with Minecraft on is what this is doing is essentially giving kids a way to be hands-on, which I think is the best way to learn, especially if you're a kid. If you're allowing them to go into this virtual world, you can allow a lot more hands-on learning in subjects that you might not have been able to otherwise. And kind of the follow-up question to that is, you're talking about trying to get these teachers on board with this. How are you communicating the importance of this technology to these teachers in order to get them excited to implement this into their classrooms? Because I'm sure this is quite overwhelming to teachers.
Yeah.
My mom is a first grade teacher, and she had to learn Zoom and Google Meet and everything, and that was a lot for her. And she's pretty up with the times. So I'm sure that was a challenge that you faced as you tried to implement these technologies as well.
Yeah. So, there are a lot of innovative teachers out there. And they're sprinters. I call them purple cows. I mean, they're in schools. They're remarkable. They are hungry to innovate and create engaging learning experiences for kids. And so you got to hook them in first, right? The early adopters, the sprinters. And one of the things that we do in JCPS is, when I talked earlier about digital agility, badging. The notion of badging in education has really been popular in the past several years. So becoming, and with teachers, there aren't a lot of ways, unless you get a master's degree, which now in Kentucky, you don't even have to get a master's degree. Yeah, for a long time you did, but there's not a lot of ways to stand out as a teacher. So one way that you can stand out is to improve your digital agility and get Google certified, or Apple Teacher, and that's one of our partners, or Minecraft Innovative Educator, or this new thing, Minecraft Educator. So we're getting ready to run a big camp, and we'll have all kinds of teachers pursuing their Minecraft Educator certification. So, and there's many, many, many other badges as well that teachers can earn. And what happens is, after they complete the training, they start implementing it in their classroom. They get a badge. A lot of them use it on their email signature, and then we celebrate them wildly. then we have them running the trainings because we listen to someone who's walked a mile in our shoes much easier than someone who has not. So we shine a bright light on those teachers, and then they bring in other teachers. And through that, I mean, the rapid success of Minecraft and JCPS would not have happened without so many teachers embracing the digital tool and integrating it into the classroom for kids, and it's working.
Yeah, let's take a step up here on the ladder. How does the entire school system, how is it structured that they are able to adapt and adopt new technology, you know, when it comes out, like Minecraft? How long did that decision take? Did it take, you know, too long in your eyes, or was it fast? And if it is fast, then what kind of systems are in place for you guys to be able to adopt quickly?
So I don't know if you guys heard in the press a couple years ago about the digital backpack of success skills. So the digital backpack of success skills, essentially, we want kids to demonstrate, I mean, obviously like a number, a score, an ACT score, a GPA, whatever. Those things we have, you know, they're gonna be there, right? Because we're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but they're going to be there. But kids, if you think about the evolution of IQ and EQ and the fact that kids can have lots of other strengths and skills that don't necessarily show up in that number score. Like we're never going to see those skills, you know, in a number. So our superintendent and our CAO had the vision. They met with the community, and they came up with what we call backpack of success skills. One of them is emerging innovator, right? So strong instructional vision, emerging innovator, productive collaborator, globally, culturally competent citizen, etc. So when I was brought on the team, and this will help you understand, because this does not happen, Evan, if the district leadership does not have a strong instructional vision, right? That's the first thing that needs to happen. And then people like me come in and say, okay, you want kids to be emerging innovators? Then I need to bring in all the tools and put all the tools in these teachers' toolboxes that allow kids to demonstrate that they are emerging innovators. So one of the things that I did that's a key part of this story with our team is we were looking at products on the shelf. And I know that you guys feature a lot of startups, and this might be like a little breakthrough for some of them. We looked at a lot of products on the shelf about, can kids archive evidence of this learning, right? So how can I show you I'm an emerging innovator? You're not really going to see a 75 on a test is not showing middle tech that I'm an emerging innovator. I got to see a product. So we looked at a bunch of products that existed, and we didn't like any of them. We put out an RFP. They all showed up, and I just do not. I will not take no, I won't take no for an answer. And I don't like any of this. So threw a Hail Mary out to Google, Iris Vale in New York City. And I said, here's this bold instructional vision for this urban district in Kentucky. Will you all help us build something to capture evidence of learning around these success skills? So essentially, so kids can curate these artifacts that they're creating. So Minecraft, if Evan builds, instead of a poster board or a diorama or a handwritten brochure, if Evan builds his hurricane shelter in Minecraft, he records it where he's talking and navigating the audience through his shelter, then we're going to take that video and we're going to upload it in your backpack. And at now this is the cool part. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss, but this is the badass part right here. At 5th, 7th, and 12th grade, Evan is going to stand up as a 5th grader and open his digital backpack that we built with Google and a company called Amplified IT. We built it. He's going to open up his backpack on that big display, and he's going to take us into his Minecraft world and defend why this creation shows he's an emerging innovator. And then why this thing that he built, this podcast he's doing with his friend, shows that he is an effective communicator. So there's a little snippet of that podcast. Why this thing that he created shows he's a globally, culturally competent citizen when he went down to City Hall and stood up, against an ordinance or something. So do you see what I'm saying? That vision, then my team comes in and help with the digital tools and helps teachers create experiences where kids can demonstrate those things for those defenses. And they do it at key transition years, 5th grade, 8th grade, 12th grade. So if you think about deeper learning and graduate profiles and who's doing the big work that's really challenging school, I think it's our district leadership here in JCPS. I think we're at the forefront of that.
It's crazy. You mentioned the backpack concept. So I want to take us, kind of a step back into the time portal here. When I was a freshman in college, some friends and I, Michael Lewis, who you might be aware of, and a couple others started a company called Finance U that had some of those same themes. As a high school student or as a grade school student, like you said, there's so much more to you than just your grades, your GPA and your ACT and your SAT. And we created a company called Finance U that would allow people to upload their digital music library that they had created if they were a music producer, or they could upload film of them playing a sport. They could upload projects and videos of things that they've built, and then raise money for college scholarship using that, in your terms, a backpack, but in our terms, there's like a student profile on our website. And we were allowing students to raise money on who they truly were versus, these numbers-based metrics that oftentimes, miss who the student really is. And so it's cool that you guys are trying to incorporate that into an entire school district and school system, because that really, I think, will bring a lot of creativity into the students' lives, because now they're striving for more than just, a number. And a lot of students get, really discouraged when they look at a number on a grade, on a test that comes back to them. And maybe that's just not, one of their better subjects, or maybe they get their ACT or some of the other ways that you measure a student, and that's just not, what they're good at. And so it's cool that you're trying to incorporate many of these other parts of the brain and other creative outlets into this backpack, and I love that concept. Where do you see that heading? How's the progress on that?
So here's the big challenge. So we work very closely with Google, Applesoft. That's hilarious. It's been a long day. Google, Microsoft, and Apple. So they are our premier partners. And so one of the things that I did early on, and this is my third year in the district, in the pandemic year, does that really count? I mean, so really where this kind of got legs was in the first 2 years. And so when Google or Microsoft or Apple would come into town, because when you're a big urban district, and I've been in smaller Kentucky districts, it's not like this, but when you're the big urban district, everybody wants to come play, because everyone wants success in an urban district. And so one thing that you need to know is we scaled that backpack, and we built it. I think I was hired July 1st, and Marty, our superintendent, Dr. Polio, by the first day of school, he, and I don't know if you know anything about him, but he was a student assistant under Bobby Knight. So when he says he wants something, like, we got to deliver. So that was his leadership training. So he wanted it the first day of school. And we had a month to build it, and then we had to scale it out. So that's a whole separate story that we're not going to have time to tell, but that scale strategy and how we got to every school and trained up every school on how to use the backpack with kids. Because at the time, I mean, JCPS had only had their Google domain barely opened and on. So there was a lot of upskilling that had to happen. And so as we started having success with that, then other people wanted to come and play. And that's where Apple and Microsoft come into town. And so what we would do is they would bring their northeastern regional director, their big guy on this part of the country, out to see us. And I would say, okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go sit in on a backpack defense. And we would reach out to schools and we'd say, who's doing backpack defenses? And we'd go and they'd sit with me. And guess what they would see? They loved the vision, the instructional vision, but when the kid would stand up and defend their backpack, there would be a poster board, a picture of a poster board in the backpack, a picture of a handwritten brochure. And so I told them, I was like, here's the challenge. If we're going to partner together, like, you have to be authentically integrated into the support strategy for this initiative. I need you to help me help our schools leverage your digital creation tools, your digital innovation tools. Help me upskill people on how to choose that and give that as an option for kids over that poster board. And so I spent some time in Cupertino. Microsoft was camped out with us for weeks. We're launching camps for teachers everywhere. And then the pandemic happened. Now, wow, to be in this line of work during the pandemic, but here's what it did. It was the miracle grow on your mom's digital agility.
100%.
On everyone's digital agility, kids, teachers, parents across the district. Our teachers had to integrate these tools, and how was a kid going to demonstrate learning? I mean, they weren't going to turn in a poster board. they were going to have to leverage a digital tool in order for kids, because the backpack went on. I mean, Marty wasn't backing down from that. Carmen wasn't either. So the backpack went on. We still had defenses, but the demonstrations of learning looked much different. Does that help explain that, Evan?
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and something that I was
go
kind of
ahead,
thinking as you were talking through this is I'd love to hear a little bit about what the kids think of this. I'm sure you're getting some feedback from them one way or the other. I'm sure all of it's not 100% positive, but I'd love to hear. I'm sure they're in love with this program. So what's some of the feedback and some of the signals that you're getting from the students?
Year one, yeah, great question. Year one, so Carmen Coleman, and I kind of I'm the bridge between our CIO and our CAO. So chief academic and then our tech guy, our head tech guy. And it's like kind of, I always tell everyone, it's like holding two kites in a hurricane and making sure that those kites are like moving together. So she was called the backpack lady because really this was a big vision that she had cast. She's a national deeper learning Dr.
Yeah.
I feel like that's so much more robust than getting to the end of the school year and seeing that your student got a really good ACT score. Like if you're seeing what they actually created and watching them passionately defend it, that has to be a more emotional experience for the teacher. So I can totally see how that becomes a big feedback loop for the teachers is we're using this technology, we're leveraging all these tools, the kids are loving it, and now look, we've got a passionate student that's actually built this portfolio, this backpack, where they can take out into the real world. They actually have real world assets that they can go and show people what they've done. I'm sure that is just an incredible experience all around for all those involved. But as
I bet it puts some pressure on the students to, be creative and be productive and maybe work a little harder than they would otherwise, because now they have other ways of being judged on, who they really are versus these grades. Is that something you're seeing as well? Is that, it pushes the students a little bit more because they have to stand up in front of people and say, hey, here's what I've been doing and working on. Yeah.
Something that I'm curious about that I'm sure you're thinking on a lot as you use all of these new and emerging technologies is, how is education going to change as technology continues to change? We've got VR that's being used more, collaboration software, all of this remote stuff that's now been emerged because of COVID. In the next 5 to 10 years, how do you see education changing as technology changes? Absolutely. Oh, just to interrupt that real quick. That is 100% the way it is because I've been taking videos. I have a VR headset. I've been taking videos of people doing it for the first time. Every single time, it's always, oh my gosh, can't believe it. So bringing that into a classroom, absolutely.
One question I have along those lines, in order to do like really personalized education, you got to have a lot of data. And so how are you guys approaching privacy? Because these are young students, they're children. At what points are you collecting this data, and how do you view security around all this?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the kind of last questions here is we're talking kind of futuristic and where we see things going. I think we've already seen a big trend of young kids learning how to code earlier and earlier. Do you think that should be a required field of study to some extent as we teach these kids younger and younger, or what's your view on teaching kids to code? Well, Heather, it's been absolutely awesome talking to you. You can hear the passion in your voice whenever you talk about this stuff, and what you do is very important work. If we want to elevate the state and the country as a whole, we have to start with the kids and introducing them to technology and making sure that they understand the potential and the opportunities that are out there. And it's not going to stop anytime soon. We're kind of on an exponential curve as far as technology and emerging technologies go. So thank you so much for joining us. We're definitely going to be pushing this out to some of our teacher connections. So where can people go to learn more about what you do or get in contact with you and all that good stuff? Awesome. That's a perfect place to end it. Thank you so much. This was great. This was awesome to have this conversation with you.
It's been great.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. So next steps, if you could go ahead and be proactive about sending us some headshots or any assets that we could share on social media when we go to promote the episode. This episode is going to be coming out in 2 weeks, I believe. So you've got some time to do that, but we'll follow up about that as well. So that's the stuff we'll need from your end, and then we'll keep in touch with you about when this is coming out and all of that good stuff. And absolutely.